Good evening, friends. Good afternoon. Happy hour. My name's Rebecca Sellens. I'm with the Cedar Rapids Metro Economic Alliance, and welcome to Stillwater Coffee. We are going to go ahead and get our program started. So if you are over mingling, please feel free to come and grab a seat. We have more seating over here. We're really excited to have you here today for the Hiawatha Business Summit Happy Hour. This is our last event for the year, and we love to have a little happy hour, added a little bit of time for networking, so we hope you see some familiar faces, and we'll hang out after the conversation today too as well. So we've probably got this place till about 5:30. So thank you so much for coming. The Hiawatha Business Summit series is a quarterly event. Should I wander over and... Okay, we're going to call these people out just a little bit. We're just going to go ahead and get our program started. So I'm going to encourage you to find a seat and or call your attention to our speakers. The networking portion of the beginning of the program is over. And thank you for your attention. What a kind crowd. I work with, I didn't ask you to clap once if you can hear me. That's my signature one. But thanks again for coming, guys. This is a collaboration between the City of Hiawatha, Hiawatha Economic Development Corporation, and the Cedar Rapids Metro Economic Alliance. Thank you so much for coming out today. Just wanted to welcome you here. We're going to have a conversation about AI, which I know everybody wishes we'd spend probably more time on than we will today. But I'm going to go ahead and hand things over to Executive Director of HEDCO, Liz Mathis, to lead our conversation today. Let's give her a round of applause.
Thanks, Rebecca. Can everybody hear us? First of all, everybody can hear us? Okay, great. Thanks for being here. We really appreciate this. Even Pankaj said, wow, this is a good crowd. It really is. This is the kind of crowd that we love, a little social. You get to meet new people and exchange ideas, and this is going to be a whopper. So we promise not to scare you, but AI can be scary and fun at the same time. So our topic for this business summit is perhaps the single most impactful and transformational shift happening right now. And our presentation is a conversation, a casual conversation, and we titled it AI, Employee Training and the Future of Business. And that's pretty broad, so we'll get a little bit more specific. So we're not here to necessarily talk theory, although we might get into that. And we're here to talk about everyday business reality. And to do that, I'm thrilled to be joined by a respected member of the Hiawatha, Cedar Rapids, and Marion, and the state of Iowa, and national business community, Pankaj Monga, who is president and CEO of Channel Fusion. For over 2 decades, he's been a leader in channel marketing, helping major global brands from John Deere to Michelin and on, connect with their distributors and dealers. And his company, Channel Fusion, based right here in Hiawatha, right over in that building, right there, is a technology-enabled services firm that manages complex campaigns and trade promotion funds. He's precisely the kind of forward-thinking leader who not only sees the future, but has to build his business around it. So the hook for today's conversation is a personal one. Now, I'll be honest with you. A few months ago, Pankaj and I had a conversation about AI that genuinely opened my eyes, dropped my jaw, and I've been quoting you ever since. As someone who's actively implementing these tools day to day and has invested in AI as well, he shared some insights about the pace of AI and the adoption that were both eye-opening and frankly a bit humbling. So the gap between where AI capabilities are today and where most businesses are in their adoption journey is significant and growing. So Pankaj promised me that he wouldn't scare anyone today, but he will give us an honest and practical perspective on what's happening in real time. This isn't about fear, it's about awareness and opportunity. He's here to help us understand not just where AI is heading, but how we can start taking meaningful steps forward, regardless of where we're starting from. So please join me in welcoming Pankaj Monga. Okay, let's start at the conversation that we had a couple months ago. Could you share that AI aha moment? What specific business task or process did you realize AI was suddenly capable of doing that you, as a business leader, as a company owner, thought was farther away?
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me, this awesome crowd. So the story that Liz is referring to happened last year, and a very close friend of mine who is running a large organization within a Fortune 10 company called me, and we were just having a casual conversation. And I said, "Hey, I need you to put on your AI hat on and kind of talk to me a little bit about agentic workflows and code gen and all of the kind of stuff that we were exploring, and how are you guys using that?" And again, he's got about 3,000 or 4,000 people that are in his organization. And he said, "Agentic workflows." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Check your email." So I checked my email, and 60 seconds later, I see the front page of the PowerPoint presentation that he had presented to his board about the same topic. And it said September 12th, 2015. And he says, "Dude, you're like 10 years behind," right? So I'm like, whoa, right? So as I'm talking to my peers, I'm finding three things that are common. One is everybody's hair is on fire. Two, everybody thinks that they're behind. And three, they are trying to figure out what is it going to do to their business in the very near short term. And I think that's the conversation that Liz and I started. And that very same friend, just to give you a little bit more context, called me a couple of weeks ago and said that, so he's kind of, they're at the forefront of computer technology, and they've got a lot of code that they've written in COBOL and Ada from the 50s and 60s and 70s, 52.5 million lines of code, to be precise, that they have to convert. And they have a project with about 930 people to convert that. Originally, it was scheduled to be finished by 2033. And 3 years ago, they started using some code gen tools, and they accelerated that to 2029, which is incredible, 4 years. And he called me a couple of weeks ago, and I had to pull over because he said, "I just got out of a presentation with this company called Blitzy. And they said, if you upload those 52 million lines of code on Thursday, we'll have it converted on Monday." Oh. $500,000 was the cost to do that. So it's transformational. It is happening really fast. And so as we started our journey, we tried to figure out, okay, like everybody else, what does this mean? And the AI layer really, and I'm going to be kind of all over the place. But the AI stack, as they say, is kind of, it starts at the bottom with energy, which is kind of where everything is. And you're seeing all these data centers that are coming through. Schneider Electric, which is one of our clients, I would have never thought there used to be the old Square D, if you guys remember. They're getting ready to be bought by Google, right? Which is an interesting match because energy sits at the bottom of that stack. And then you have the data centers that sit on top of that, and you're seeing trillions of dollars being spent in data centers. And then on top of that stack is your LLMs, your large language models, which, by the way, I should do a quick temperature check. How many of you here use some kind of large language model every day?
Well, not every day.
We are AI company.
Okay, you're an AI company. Okay, so that you have an advantage there. Obviously on top of that stack is LLM, and then you have apps, AI companies that are split on top of that. So there's that kind of stack there, and so we kind of we needed to figure out how do we utilize this technology? And I started getting more involved in this space, listening to a lot of experts in this space, and now we have basically said that AI is, we're going to become intentional about that within our organization. So we've hired a leader who has been doing this since 2015. Before it was all data science and machine language and learning. And so we are going cross-functional across the organization, and I've picked 4 pillars really where we are applying AI. First is our product, which is the technology that our clients use. The second is our biz ops, which is the internal stuff that we use, like in our account teams, operations, et cetera. And the third one is our data. So we have so much data that obviously AI can convert that data from descriptive, which is analytical, to predictive, to prescriptive, which is the ultimate goal there. And then finally, our code gen and QA, which is kind of the Blitzy example that I gave you to kind of accelerate velocity and quality. So that's how we are getting intentional about AI, and it's changing so fast, it's incredible.
Well, you used this example, you said to your staff or a few of your leaders, where do you think we are on the spectrum?
Yep.
Are we years away, weeks away?
Yep.
Days away?
So what I did there was after kind of getting myself off the ground, after that, we kind of figured out, our executive leadership team got together and said, I had to kind of sell that all the way down to the organization. And that's a hard sell because AI has a lot of negative connotations around, is it going to, am I going to lose my job? Obviously, you have the whole electricity debate. A lot of people are upset. You saw that vote in Indiana, a lot of people are saying no to data centers because their electric bills are going up. And so there's a lot of stigma around that, and so a couple of examples I was telling Liz, I told our team was, imagine that we're preparing for a race, and we're in the gym, we're taking care of our bodies, we're training, and we were saying, okay, if we reduce our 100-meter time from 12 seconds to 11 seconds, we're going to do well, and we show up at the starting line, and all our competitors are in a car, right? So we have a problem right there, right? So that's the first kind of starting process on that, was we got to let everybody understand that we've got to use this. And AI isn't something, I think, that you install, right? It's more of a mindset. It's something you use every day. You have to use every day. There's intentionality around that. And then once we kind of all figured that out, we talked to, okay, how do we communicate to the rest of the organization? And that was a really important task because, again, because of all that's involved. So we basically said, let's all imagine that we're all going to dinner in Iowa City together as a company. And we are not going to order, let alone start eating, unless everybody is on the table. So you have a choice. Are you walking to Iowa City or are you driving to Iowa City? Because if you guys are walking, then we're all going hungry, right? So we all have to come together and do this and get in that car and drive down. And so that's kind of simple communication like that started to get people to feel like this is something we need to adopt really quickly.
So when then you gathered the leaders around and then the staff, so give me an example of what you do with AI, how you inserted it into training your employees, and then give me an example of the workflow.
Sure. So one of the simplest things that we did, and we kind of decided up front that we're going to do singles and doubles. We're not going to do moonshots, right? Small tasks. I don't know if you guys saw the MIT study, the thing that came out at the end of August, that 95% of the 300 companies that were involved in that study had AI initiatives that failed, right? So there's a lot of hype around AI, and I'm sure you're kind of keeping track of the circular financing stuff that is happening in this space, which is why the stocks are kind of bubbly, to say the least, right? So we said we're going to do small things, and the smallest thing you can start with is communication, right? So if AI can take an email I'm supposed to write and convert it into 2 minutes, or some kind of generative content that I'm writing, right? So these are things that don't require a lot of investment. And I was talking to an investor, which is my other job, the other day, and they're kind of back of the paper napkin. We're saying, we all are now using some kind of streaming service, Hulu or YouTube TV, et cetera, and they all feel like, there are, I think, about 5.5 billion internet and smartphone users around the world, and if 20% of them are going to adopt some kind of an AI tool, and spending your $90 or $100 a month, that's $1 trillion TAM, right? That people are feeling strongly that's there. So the model for these guys is not just the old enterprise model like SAP, and you had to spend $5 million to install that in your organization. Now it's $20 a month, right? And it's a month-to-month thing. So you can try it. Back to my car example, you can lease a different car or a new car every month, for $20 a month, and try it. And the ROI on that is incredible, especially on the generative side. I honestly, I don't know the last time I wrote an email. So I mean, I just have AI. So what I've done is I've created a business strategist that is my AI strategist, and I think my AI strategist knows more about my company than I do at the moment. I have uploaded everything. I have uploaded our financials. I've uploaded people, org charts, you name it. There isn't anything that I haven't uploaded, and it's incredible. I was listening to the CEO of HubSpot the other day, and Dharamesh Shah, who is the founder of a $30 billion company, and he said same thing. He said, I've uploaded everything, and their team was having a discussion about a product feature in HubSpot, and they were saying that they were not understanding why he had overruled a product feature from 2019. And so he went into his AI assistant, and said, why did I do that? And it showed him exactly the email that he wrote and the bullet points he wrote from 2019 to the team, and what was the rationale behind that, right? So it's like, people say it's like an intern that you have that has a PhD in everything, right? Yes. So it's pretty incredible.
And you still have to be instructive.
Yes.
I mean, that you have to, I've noticed that when I write a paragraph and then it's not quite right, and then I edit it, and then it's not quite right until I get there.
Yes.
So part of that. So all these things that you've learned, how are you measuring? Do you measure your AI projects against those that you don't use AI, or do you use AI for everything? How do you measure?
So for certain things, we have baselines. Code gen is an easy example. If you're writing code, that is, you can get lift on that. With AI, I've kind of used, I think of a couple of things. One is that AI is probabilistic, but it's not deterministic yet, right? So by that, I mean that it can be right maybe 50% of the time, or sometimes 100% of the time, sometimes 25% of the time. Humans are more deterministic than AI, So that's a very big distinction there. And I'll give you an example. So if I'm running a fintech company, let's say, and part of what we do is wire money, I don't want my AI agent to make the final determination, because God forbid if it hallucinates and sends it to Syria, I'll have the feds at my door tomorrow morning, right? You will. So AI is more probabilistic today than deterministic. Second, I think that's important is a lot of people think that AI eventually is going to be end to end, and I think that's a fallacy, at least as we sit today. I think AI is more middle to middle, and by that I mean is that the human starts the loop, and then this instructs AI what to do, and then the AI does 80% of the hard part in the middle, and then the human takes the 20% and takes it across the finish line. So the human's still end to end, the AI is kind of more middle to middle. And so what we're trying to do is we're just trying to find use cases, the things that, I'm sure everybody has tasks in their business that's what I call stealing their time, right? So you're doing things, you're writing emails, invoices, think of everything repetitive that kind of kills you to do, but you have to do it. That's where the real value of AI is right away, right? So because again, it's a cheap assistant, digital assistant. It's the power of reasoning has allowed it to do certain things that are okay being probabilistic at the end, and then you have the human end-to-end loop there. So measuring code gen is a simple example, right? So we can do scaffolding, we can do things that our developers, our technology guys can prompt and get to 80%, and then they can harden that code across the finish line for security and other pieces that they need to do. And that's really measurable because we can see that. I'll give you a small example that just happened as I was just coming in. So our head of AI has created an agentic workflow, created an agent that is listening to the client. So our account teams are listening to the client, and we have an AI tool there that is notating everything, and it's part of that meeting. So nobody has to sit there and take notes anymore. Yes. And as soon as the work is done or the conversation is complete, that AI document can be fed into that agent that can then write out user stories and do actual estimates without ever talking to the person who's going to do that. And we have been within 4 to 5% in our estimates with the actual estimate that people are giving us. So that's taken us about a week, was originally taking us about a week to do. And I think she just said she did 80 of those estimates in 7 minutes.
Oh my.
Right, so the speed of that stuff, right? Again, probabilistic versus deterministic. You know, she's wanting to take those estimates and convert it into code, but we're going to take that a little slowly.
I noticed the last time I went to the doctor, raise your hand if this happened, the doctor said, okay, there's a microphone on, it's going to be taking notes, and then it's just taking notes, and then it'll go into my chart.
Sure.
Has anybody had that yet? Your doctor has said that? Amazing.
Yeah, and this is an example of that repetitive task, because those notes that the doctor or somebody's taking really doesn't add value to your interaction with the doctor, right? So it's something that has to be done. It has to be accurate. So having an agentic piece around that just makes sense. It's repetitive. It's something that is stealing the doctor's time away with dealing with you, and now that can be done by AI.
Okay, so CEO, your leadership, there's buy-in, your staff. Let's talk about the humanistic part of this. There are some people, I mean, I have trouble around an Excel sheet still. You know, I'm always asking our city manager where's Dennis Marks. I mean, what do I do here? What's the formula? So you have people who may be a little resistant to it. You may have people, like you said before, who feel that there will be job loss around it. So how have you been able to talk to your staff in being able to retain staff and train staff to their abilities?
So firstly, I'll start with myself. You know, I was just a part of a webinar that had Bob Nardelli, who was the original from the CEO from Chrysler, and then at Home Depot, et cetera, and then IBM. So he was talking about that this is a really difficult time to be a CEO. Lots of people, as a matter of fact, I can tell you firsthand, I offered one of our employees my job and they laughed at me. It's a hard time because, you know, leaders at that role are really good at maintaining that equilibrium between the rate of change and the rate of learning, right? And this is the worst time for that because the rate of change is so fast that CEOs are not able to keep up. And they are juggling all these tensions that are in an organization, you know, adoption, AI, the macro stuff, everything is changing every day, right? So that's the first thing. And then, of course, Steve Jobs left us with a little thing that just helps us, you know, not disconnect at all. So that just adds to that. And it's affecting a lot of health of leaders because of that particular thing. So now you bring in the tension around employees and how you handle that. One of the things we always talk about is internally is that AI isn't going to replace your job, but somebody who knows AI probably will. And the single most simple answer to that is, you know, we have to look at it as a force multiplier. And there are a lot of leaders who, there are two camps, and one camp is, you know, that how can I reduce my workforce? And the other camp is, you know, now all of a sudden I can compete with bigger and better players because I have a force multiplier that allows me to, instead of having 500 employees, 5,000 employees because of AI, right? So it kind of levels the playing field a little bit. So that's kind of how we are approaching this internally is we're talking to our employees about, you know, learn to take the tactical stuff away and learn to be a problem solver, which is what you really want to do, and then let AI be the force multiplier to help you. And I think we're starting to see a lot of people who are seeing that and understanding the benefit. Once they kind of get over that hump about, you know, this is going to replace me, and it's not, because it's probabilistic, it's not deterministic. We still need humans in the loop. Again, AI is middle to middle, and we need humans to start it and to finish it. And so I think people realize that I can do a lot more. I can, you know, I was talking to an investment banker friend of mine, and they hired a lot of Ivy League guys, and they hired a kid from Boston College. And I said, you know, what's the deviation there? He says, the Boston College kid said, you know, I can, if a Ivy League grad can do, you know, 4 or 5 M&A deals in a week, can handle that, I can handle 4 or 5 in an hour because I know I've got all these AI components and tools that I can use. So I think it's, again, leveling the playing field and understanding that it's not AI per se that's going to replace your job, but somebody who knows how to use that is going to be.
It's your superpower.
Correct.
Right. All right, the reality check. When you look at the AI landscape today versus 6 months ago, what's changed? Help us understand, again, that pace within just this year. So whether it's new companies, what has been the progress over the last 6 months that you've seen?
Significant. I mean, and again, the rate of change. I think, what's that stat I was seeing the other day? I think it took Facebook 5.5 years, somewhere around there, 5 years to get 100 million users. I think it took TikTok maybe 7 months to get 100 million users. And I think ChatGPT took 2 months to get 100 million users. Right, so again, the rate of change is just incredible, and how fast that is happening. We've had kind of the industrial revolution, we've had the technology, the computers, we've had internet, broadband, mobile, and then we've got this, which is really a hockey stick, and it's changing significantly. On a fun side, you should Google Will Smith eating spaghetti. I don't know if you've tried that or not. I don't know if you guys have tried that, but Will Smith eating spaghetti is, you can see the difference in 12 months of that AI video. I mean, the one on the right, I believe, is still Will Smith eating spaghetti, And so it's just, I was also telling somebody here that my son was showing me a video that he had uploaded his picture, and he just simply wrote, I think it was a Sora with ChatGPT. He uploaded his picture and he said, show me playing 1v1 with Kobe Bryant. Right, and if I didn't know him, I would have said, "Wait, when did the Lakers get an Indian kid to play?" Right? It was incredible. They were trash talking. There was this, that was just incredible. And so there's this is happening really fast, and I think it's just we've got to keep up with it.
Okay, the expense. You mentioned that the company that thought they were 30 years away, that it was a few years away, they spent $500,000. Which they would have spent a lot more than that over the period of the time that they would be developing if it were longer. So for mid-size and small companies who want to invest in AI or see that they could use AI for projects, what's the pricing? Is it high now and going to be low later? Is it low now and high later? What are your predictions?
Well, like we talked, I think you were saying that you're using ChatGPT at no cost, right? So you're using it free.
Until I run out of,
until you run
I
out of
ask it a
tokens,
lot of questions, and it goes, sorry, you got to go.
It's I think $20 a month or $100 a month for a pro business license, etc. And they're month to month, so you can try them out. I would recommend kind of going deep into one, using others, but going deep into one. And I think for businesses, I think it's making AI literacy and AI's intentionality within your business, right? So you're not thinking that it's something esoteric, that it's something that it's here to stay. The genie is, if it's not out of the box, it's popping its head, definitely out of the box. So it's just something I think you look at, again, the generative piece, email, content, blogs, marketing, customer service. These are things that every business has, and you can use low-cost tools. You have a plethora of them to kind of use that. I just heard the other day that we're not very far away from our first solopreneur, which in technology, in the Silicon Valley terms, means a single-person billion-dollar company.
What?
Yes. So because everything is
that would
AI
be Taylor
AI
Swift.
Yeah,
No,
that's right. That's right.
No,
So AI is doing everything. AI is doing everything for them.
Oh my gosh. So a related question: if a business owner in the audience leaves today and commits to one thing to prepare for the AI-driven workplace, what should that commitment be? And number two, should they focus on training, budgeting, or simply establishing an internal policy on how to use these tools safely?
Sure. So first thing I would say is literacy, right? So you've got to spend time to learn it. So think about it from when we had kind of transformed from manual work and writing everything to the computers came in, Excel came in, and now Word and Excel are just part of we don't even think about that, right? So I think it's got to be a similar transformation internally. However that was made in your business, you've got to make that again, except this time it's it's a huge force multiplier. It's much more powerful than anything I've seen. It's extremely disruptive and extremely powerful. So literacy would be the first thing I would say. And then I think secondly, making that an intentionality. So when we talk about being an AI first company, we talk about internally saying, come in and before you open Outlook, open your AI assistant, right? So it's how you start your day. And that's kind of like how you check your email, how you write, do whatever it is that you do on your computer or laptop. So I think it's making that an intentionality. And then secondly, looking at, singles and doubles, things that are repetitive that you do, invoicing, again, there are things that you just have to do because even though it adds no value to what you provide to the customer, but it's the cost of doing business. Those are the things that are, again, singles and doubles rather than something moonshot and trying to solve that. That would be the first place to go. And then I think one thing that comes with employee literacy, which is what we've seen in our business, is how creative employees get when they realize how creative they can be with this. And that's the cool part about that, is that, we've had people who have, who've adopted this and then have taken the ball and just run with it. It's pretty incredible to see that. And things we didn't even know that we could do, they are kind of doing that. And so it's become a true force multiplier internally for us. So get that intentionality, look at some repetitive things you're doing, get the tools, get people addicted to it, in terms of it being a force multiplier, and then watch them go.
Yeah, 150-page report on something versus a 100-page report, you put them together, say, is our company following this? Are we going to be able to capitalize on this? And merging those two documents in a matter of like 10 seconds or 15 seconds, or sometimes it will say, I'm thinking, and then it spits this out. We had a housing study that we did versus a census study, so quick facts and things like that. And our community development person went to a conference and she learned how to use some of those statistics to have evidence-based practices in community development. And so we merged them and outspit this perfect guide to these are the things that you're doing. You could, on a percentage basis, you could do more of this. And here's what if you'll keep doing this is what's going to happen over here. It was fascinating.
Yep.
Some of it we kind of, okay,
Sure.
it needs a little tweak here and there. I think it's logic, human logic,
Correct.
that you're going to doubt some of the things. But those easier things, like you said, your email and things like that, that's just so good
So
that
easy.
it just
absolutely.
takes care of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to open this up. Oh, we have 10 more minutes. This is perfect. I'm going to open it up, and I know you have a list of questions. So pick your best one. Jerry Mulwinkle here, former city council member.
I'm all about AI, but of recently, I've heard talk of the AI bubble bursting, and as recently as this morning on BBC, the Bank of England was talking about it's going to touch every single person, and so I went to AI, and I started to ask about an AI bubble, but came up the CEO for Google. He also said that it's at risk, and I think it's the pace of AI. Maybe going to outpace, business, and people are going to fall to the wayside, and that's going to trickle down. But something else popped up. It's back in the dot-com bubble burst. Our Alan Greenspan coined a phrase, irrational exuberance, and I thought, that kind of sounds like what's happening. But anyway, some things that you said here, technology marches on. In my business, when we introduced CAD design, computer-aided design, I had to check my tires when I went out because the draftspeople probably helped. But the end result of that was quicker design, more accurate, and less man hours. And I saw the threat of those people gradually, those people that adopted that, but still the number of those people sitting at computers were less than the draftsmen in the room, which is a benefit to business. And those people either had to change, whatever they were doing and find new work. So, why is the CEO of Google saying there's a possibility, I'm not saying definite, but a possibility of a bubble coming down the line going to burst?
So I think that's a great question. And I think I'll go back to kind of what I referred to earlier. So there's a lot of, so the valuations are crazy, right? OpenAI is worth, I don't know, $1 trillion now, or 500 or 600 billion. Data centers are. So they're playing this circular game, which is first part of that bubble. So I mean by a circular game is NVIDIA invests in OpenAI, 100 billion. OpenAI turns around and buys $100 billion worth of chips from NVIDIA, right? So that's a circular thing I'm talking about. So they both show revenue. One shows equity, one shows revenue. And based on that, they're inflating their valuation over and over and over again. They're buying each other's stuff, and they're showing it on their balance sheets that way. So that's part of that bubble. They haven't shown the value to the consumer yet. And MIT's report doesn't help that, right? So they're internally, they're betting big on these things and inflating their valuation, and that's part of that bubble, I think, that he's talking about. The other part that Sundar Pichai is talking about is that generally these things are, and Google is in a very interesting state right now. I think we were talking about this. They're what's called in a founder's dilemma. And what I mean by that is that for 25 years, last April, their search results went down for the first time in 25 years. Their entire business model, 260 billion of 320 billion, is their search revenue, right? And they're going to go from number one in market share on that to obsolete. And that's because of their founder's dilemma, which is that the entire business model is for you to type in something, get a relevant result, which is what their secret sauce is, and click and go away. As soon as you click and go away, they make money, right? Because they send you to a website, it's a referral, it's that classic, per pay-per-click model. Now, the problem is when LLMs have come through, you don't have to go away. You can just ask the question and you're there, and it keeps you there. So then now Google is trying to do the same thing. So if you see certain times you do results, they do their AI generative results, back to keep you there, right? So their goal is to now keep you there, which is a founder's dilemma because they make money by sending you away, right? So they are running into these kinds of things internally. But they have to. If they don't, then everybody's moving to these LLMs. So their search results are going down. And if they don't pass people away to the websites are the ones where all their intelligence is coming from. So they're scraping all that data, right? But they're starving the websites by keeping everybody there, right? So it's a fantastic kind of founder's dilemma that they have to solve. The good news with them is that they have a big distribution model, right? So they have Microsoft and Google. They have hundreds of millions of subscribers on YouTube and XYZ. So they have a huge distribution model, and so they've taken the approach that their AI money is going to be embedded into their tools. So YouTube is becoming more AI search sense. They're doing it with their search as well. So there are two components to that. So their first is that circular financing that they're doing that is really inflating the valuation insanely because there's no value to the customer yet, right? So it's very hyped like anything else. And so it's pulling back. When that study came out, AI stocks took a big beating after that. And then also this is moving so fast that they are a lot of these companies are in these founder's dilemma situations because it's disrupting their businesses. So one key thing I'll tell you here is that the old moats we used to call, in business are gone, right? So you look at like SAP is another example of a company that another friend of mine I was talking to said that they have a $2 billion annual SAP budget, for their organization. And they had like 9 guys that started a company 2 years ago, built exact copy of that and are offering it to them for $300,000 a year, right? So the moats that SAP has, which is once we're in, it's going to take us 5 years to get out, those moats are kind of starting to disappear. And so it's impacting, I think AI is kind of like electricity, like the internet. It's affecting everything. It's not crypto, or it's not, some of those fads that kind of people feel are there. It's affecting everything. And so that's where it's even affecting people that are in it, right? So they're trying to figure this out as they go. So it's that classic case of the rate of change and the rate of learning.
Another question, yes.
So before you open Outlook, which LLM do you use?
ChatGPT. They're like Kleenex because they're the first mover advantage, right, for me. I think after 6, maybe they'll go to 6 and they'll stop. But yeah, I've put so much into that, and my AI agent knows so much about me in ChatGPT that I do play them against each other, though. I think Liz said they do that too. So I'll tell Grok that this is what ChatGPT is saying and looks ridiculous, and they come back and say, yeah, this is ridiculous. This is not good. So.
I'll write the question out, and usually it's pretty lengthy. I'll put it in ChatGPT, in Claude AI, I love Claude AI, and Gemini. And then I run it and see if there are any factual errors or which style I like, if they followed the idea of, and I think Claude is probably my match.
Sure.
But I used ChatGPT
Fine.
today. I used it probably 4 or 5 times today. So.
Yeah, I spend maybe 3 or 4 or 5 hours a day on it. I mean, I do most of it. And there's another thing I use called compounding the LLM. So I'll say, hey, here's the context, write me an email. It writes me an email, then I open another window and says, this is the email I wrote, is it good? And it says, no, it's not good. And I'm saying, you wrote that, right? All right? And it says, okay, critique it. So I get to the 4th or 5th iteration, which is incredible, the 4th or 5th iteration. So I kind of compound that a little bit and use that as well.
We've got a question back here.
Can you just speak to businesses in regards to security as quickly as this is improving, and it is a fantastic tool, but proprietary information, confidential, HIPAA, that type of information, what should we be looking at, and what questions should we be asking when we're looking at a platform to use for AI?
Yes. So a couple of things in there I'll unpack. Security. Clearly I think that's a big concern. I think one of the questions, I think, Liz, you had mentioned, somebody had asked about was like background checks. Can I use AI to do background checks? I don't think so. I think there are some laws that you can't circumvent around that. So you can help with the background check workflow, but you can't get into privacy and have AI do all of those things. So that's still a component there. And when it regards to HIPAA, I heard Sam Altman, I think it was a month or 2 ago, and it was incredible the number of chats people are having with ChatGPT around their mental state, like talking to a counselor. And they are literally, I think as we speak, are trying to get ChatGPT to be a certified counselor by taking the exact same test that a counselor takes, a psychiatrist takes. And if it passes, it says it's a certified counselor. There's no different. You're talking to a person versus ChatGPT. So they are trying to kind of look at things that are that can go around HIPAA by having your chat assistant be certified by whatever the certifying authority is.
Yes, and there are times where, you Google before you go to the doctor. Not that but before you go to the doctor, your doctor says, stay off Google. Don't Google it. But yet ChatGPT gave me a whole bunch of information, and I gave it to my doctor, and he said,
That's
yeah,
pretty good.
this is right.
Yep.
Where did you get this? And I said, GPT.
So to that point, I work for an IT company. I own it here in Cedar Rapids, and there are backdoors for hackers. There are backdoors for hackers that can. You saw it a couple months ago with Grok. A bunch of conversations were released from Grok. So there are ways for that information to be culpable and get out there on the internet. But there are platforms called like HATZ AI, HATZ. It's an LLM, but it's secure to your organization. So all of your conversations stay within your 4 walls, which is a HIPAA compliant checkmark. So there are options out there.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
Yep, very good point.
What
Yep.
happens once your subscription is up, or if you don't keep that going?
Yeah, the subscription. Okay, one more question. Anybody? One more question? Oh, okay. Oh, this is going to be a hard one.
That's all right. That's all right.
Can you talk about the humanoids and the future you see in next couple of years? They are just sitting one of us or having wine, red wine, green wine?
So I was listening to, it's a good question to end on. I was listening to Elon, whatever you think of him. He called into the Consumer Electronics Show this year in January and talked for about 36 minutes and 4 seconds to a group of CEOs, et cetera, who simply asked the question, what's happening, Elon? And he said this in 36 minutes. I'm going to boil it down in 90 seconds. He said, well, if you haven't tried our FSD on our Tesla, I don't know if you guys has anybody tried FSD on Tesla, full service driving? It's incredible. It's incredible. A friend of mine and I were on it, and the car started to change lanes way before our exit, and we didn't disengage it, and it pulled over, and we were shocked what is happening, and 13 seconds later, an ambulance went by. It's incredible, right? So that's a whole, so anyway, so FSD in Tesla, so he was talking about how incredible that is and how it's different from Waymo, because Waymo needs to know the longitude and latitude, and Tesla can just be put on Mars and it'll work there because of their technology. And then, of course, he quickly turned around and he said, and if you guys haven't checked out our tunnel under Vegas that we are doing with the Boring Company, you should come and check it out. And he said, we have put 5 chips in people in 2024 from Neuralink. That's another company he owns that is allowing quadriplegics to walk and sight blindness to go away. And they're planning to put 20 more this year. Then he obviously talked about, he said, I'd be shocked if we're not, interplanetary. I'd like to be intergalactic, but I'd like to be in Mars by the time this is all said and done. And my Starlink satellites are in the remotest areas of the world, and we're identifying kids who are now taking, knowledge from MIT, et cetera. And oh, by the way, I'm working on something called Doge, right? So he said all of that. And this isn't stuff that they were thinking about doing. This is stuff that they're doing. And he kind of ended with the humanoid, their robot, which he said is going to be available starting in 2026. And he said the hardest part was the hand, because the hand is the most complex part of the human body in terms of how many things, I think 27 degrees of freedom. And they feel that, he basically said you could probably put one in front of a YouTube video and it'll replicate exactly what it saw. So that is coming, and he feels that there needs to be 3 per household, so you can do the math there, right, and how many there are. But this is real. This is all that stuff that they're doing, and it's happening. And at some point, probably an FSD has taken 8-10 years to get adoption, so it'll take time to get adoption. But this stuff is right around the corner. It's not something we see in movies anymore.
We're thinking home health care.
There you go. Exactly.
Totally. And so before we close here, I wanted to let you know that the next Hiawatha Business Summit will be in February. So February 24th, if y'all remember that, just watch for, Rebecca will be emailing you from the EA. And by the way, we co-host this with the EA, and I thank Rebecca so much for all that she does as a co-host for this. If you'd like to host a summit, please let me know. Just give me a call, lmathis@hiawatha-iowa.com, so you can just let me know. Thanks to Stillwater for keeping the doors open and always being just right there for us. Thank you so much. Every day that I stop here, this is my business stop. And so stick around a little bit and carry on your conversations. They'll be open till 5:30 for us. And we'd like to thank you so much for this enlightening conversation. Pankaj Monga, everyone.